So here to help us make sense of it all is the man who leads the rankings team. It's Director of Scouting, Andrew Ivins. Andrew, you made it to the day. The rankings are released. Now you have to chill and talk about it with us. So let's start with Raiola. After watching him at the Elite 11 finals earlier this month, what did you see that solidified his #1 spot?
Well, he wasn't our MVP for the event, and he wasn't named MVP by the Elite 11 staff, but I think Dylan Raiola, he lived up to the hype. He lived up to the billing. I thought it was a really solid performance for him there in Los Angeles over the course of the 3 days. And if you want to peel back the layer, there was some conversations about us ranking him #1. Look, with Dylan Raiola, the thing we see with him is he has the highest ceiling of all these quarterbacks. So that's why he remains #1, QB1, and atop the rankings. Really, this update was all about the arms. It was all about the signal callers. We had been sitting on a few different moves with the quarterbacks and wanted to get through the Elite 11 finals. We see Dylan Raiola out there. He's got an NFL-like arm. He can make a lot of throws, specifically that deep ball that some of these other quarterbacks can't make. We like the prototypical frame. So that's why he stays right here. We'll see as the season progresses. We get into the winter all-star games. If maybe one of these position players, maybe a defensive lineman leapfrogs him in the rankings. But as we head into July, August in that season, Dylan Raiola is the #1 quarterback for us. And I'll add, Dylan's going to spend his senior season at Buford High School, a power there in the state of Georgia. They open up the year against Baltimore's St. Francis Academy. That might be the most talented defense that Dylan Raiola will have ever faced. So really excited to see how he performs in that matchup.
A juicy matchup. I'm excited to see what the result is on that one. Staying at quarterback, Andrew, and the only addition among the 5 stars in this update was Julian Sayin, who was the Elite 11 MVP at the finals in Los Angeles earlier this month. What impressed you about his game and helped push him up the rankings in this latest update?
Well, Blair, you're on the rankings call, so coming into the event, I think the question for us was, hey, is Julian Sayin the #1 quarterback in the state of California? It was kind of between him and Elijah Brown, who is committed to Stanford. Well, it took 20 minutes for us to realize it's not him versus Elijah Brown. It's him versus the field. And over the course of the 3 days, he was just super consistent. I think mechanically he is buttoned up. And when you watch the junior tape, I don't want to say it's boring, but you don't get super excited. You're right. This is a high floor prospect. How much better can he get? And then we go out in Los Angeles, see him operate at the Elite 11 finals, see him a few hours later at the OT7 championship. And I still think there's some more developmental upside with him. What I like about Julian Sayin, you dig into the resume, what he has done. 21-3 on Friday nights. His average yards per attempt is over 10 yards. He's throwing an interception just once every 56 pass attempts. And he's already played in a pro-style attack. It's not like he's some system type of quarterback. He's worked under center. So we like the entire package with him. I think we come out of the month of June, come out of the Elite 11 finals and OT7 championship, realizing, hey, there is more to Julian Sayin than we initially thought. There's still a gap between Dylan Raiola, but we liked him more than some of those other quarterbacks that were also in the 5-star conversation.
Julian Sayin moving up 11 spots. Speaking of 11, that's exactly how many new additions we have to the top 247 in the most recent update. The highest ranked newcomer is 4-star wide receiver and LSU commit Kylan Billiot. So what did you and the rankings team like about this prospect that propelled him from outside to ranked 105th?
I got to give Gabe Brooks, our analyst there in Louisiana and Texas, a ton of credit. He said as soon as Kylan committed to the LSU Tigers, hey, you got to watch this guy. You got to watch this guy. And Kylan's kind of what I think is a product of the state of Louisiana, right? There's not a ton of camps there. There's not a ton of events. So it's really hard to get verified data points on those individuals. And there's usually a few guys that slip through the cracks. Kylan camped at LSU, ran a 4.57, dominated their 7-on-7 tournament, and then you turn on the tape, and we love him, right? From what we've gathered, he's a playmaker on the perimeter. He can go get the football. His frame reminds me of Jalen Hyatt, the former Tennessee wide receiver. I don't think he's as good after the catch when it comes to evading defenders and picking up yardage. I view him as Kylan as more of a vertical threat down the field, but a really nice find for LSU. They do this every summer, right? Every kid in the state of Louisiana seems to camp in Baton Rouge. They all want that offer. Kylan got it after earning it in front of Brian Kelly, Cortez Hankton, and the rest of that staff. And we think he has a ton of upside. One of our favorite wide receivers that we've uncovered here in the past few months.
4 other quarterbacks moved into the new top 24/7 in this latest update. TCU quarterback commit Haas Haney, Penn State commit Ethan Grunkemeyer, Will Hammond, Texas Tech commit, as well as Daniel Kalen from Nebraska. Who among those 4 maybe impressed you the most or has you the most excited, Andrew?
Well, I like all of them, right? They're all inside the top 247. Well, let's talk about Haas Haney. I call him Haas the boss. He is headed to TCU, a one-time Duke commit. This is a former wide receiver that moved to quarterback his junior season, lost his first 2 games, then rattled off, I think it was 13 or 14 straight wins to win a 5A title there in the state of Texas. This is a dual threat talent, right? He ran for 1,200 yards last season, passed for just over 2,000. But I thought at the Elite 11 finals, even though he's not the biggest guy, he was one of the best when it came to pushing the ball down the field. He's got a short, compact release. He's explosive as a thrower. I love the fit at TCU, and one of the reasons why we slid him into the top 247 is if you see where the game is going, right? You see it on Saturdays, you see it on Sundays. A lot of guys have to be able to move the chains with their legs, run those RPO looks. Haas Haney can do just that. And there are people on our scouting team that think if it doesn't work out for Haas at quarterback, we would rank him in the top 247 as an athlete because we think he could be a wide receiver on Sunday. So Haas Haney is one that I definitely want to highlight. Really like his build in between the ears. Enjoyed my interview with him out in Los Angeles. So we are big fans of him here at 247 Sports.
I've seen a lot of movement coming out of that Elite 11 finals, obviously. It's a lot of great talent all at once. You get to kind of compare and contrast. A lot of talent we're seeing just outside that 5-star territory. Guys like Luke Kromenhoek, who you saw there, Gatlin Bair, Charles Lester. Who among the group that's right on the edge gave you the most trouble deciding where to slot?
Well, I'm going to go with one of the few guys inside the top 247 that's not a quarterback that did move up the board, right? A lot of the rising seniors, the class of 2024 recruits, they didn't do anything over the past few weeks. They've all been taking official visits, getting the cookie cakes, doing the photo shoots, meeting with head coaches, making commitments. But LJ McCray, he snuck in there, right? I got a chance to go to his spring game right before Memorial Day weekend, and I came away super impressed. The question with LJ McCray is he has the measurables. He's over 6'6", 260 pounds, big 10.5-inch hands, 36-inch arms. Those things are levers. So he passes the measurables test, but his junior tape, you know, he didn't really have a sense of urgency at the point of attack. I saw it during that spring game. You go back and you watch what he did against West Orange in 3 quarters of play, consistently flushed out pockets, was aggressive, showed some pass rushing moves. I've heard from different college staffers that they think LJ McCray has one of the highest ceilings in the entire 2024 cycle. They said it might not be right now, but down the line, this is an absolute NFL guy, day 1, day 2. I agree. We are big fans of LJ McCray. I think he's someone that could eventually push for a spot inside that top 32. We'll see what he does here as a senior for Daytona Beach Mainland. Shout out. That's where Vince Carter went to high school. Only 3 sacks as a junior. Let's see if he doubles or triples that number here as a senior. And I believe we're going to see him at one of these all-star games. Florida, Florida State, Auburn, Miami, Georgia, all in on LJ McCray.
Good reminder. It ain't over yet. This is just an update. They still have to play their senior seasons. So there will be a continual update throughout the fall, and nothing is final yet, so don't freak out. We got some questions, though, here for you. Hannah asking in the chat, with so many 5-star wide receivers, how hard is it to separate all of them in the rankings?
Well, I love this question because I've said it to numerous people on my team. I've said it to people in my life. I think the wide receiver board in this 2024 cycle is the hardest position to stack, right? It's 60, 70, 80 players deep in terms of just legitimate Power 5 talent, guys that we think could be difference makers on Saturdays and potentially on Sundays. And what I don't want to say what sucks, but what's unfortunate is I mentioned it, right? None of these 2024s really did anything in the month of June. In the years past, we would have the opening finals, the Under Armour Future 50 event. That would be rising seniors. So we're not getting a ton of that. So it is difficult to stack these guys. And I think for us, we're going to trust our evaluations. We're going to trust our data points. We're going to lean into what we know, what we have seen from these individuals. And I think ultimately what is going to be really important when it comes to stacking them 1 through 5, 1 through 10, 1 through 15 is how they look in the All-Star games. It'll be elite going up against elite defensive backs, and it'll give us a chance to kind of see them all in the same type of setting. Not saying that's going to be the end-all, be-all. I mean, if someone misses a game due to an injury or something like that, I mean, we will take that into account. But this cycle specifically, it's been more difficult, and I also do think it's a loaded year at wide receiver.
8, is that correct? Are there 8 5-stars?
My
the wide
brain
receiver
is,
position? There's so many.
I'm leaning on you here.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it's 8, which is a lot. I mean, this is a very deep class, as you said. This next question comes from Antoine. How close is Luke Kromenhoek away from 5-star status? We talked a little bit about it. He's just on the outside looking in, but how close is he?
Luke Kromenhoek, you got it right there, Emily. We were saying Luke Kromenhoek for the longest time. And then me, Cooper, and Bud Elliott met a Florida State fan in St. Pete, and he made sure to correct us. Luke's dad won't even correct me, so I'm glad we're on the Luke Kromenhoek train. We talked about ceiling and upside with Dylan Raiola. I think the same thing applies to Luke Kromenhoek. This is a guy, another player that is cross-trained at another position. He was a wide receiver and a safety his first 2 years. 1-year starter, took over at Savannah Benedictine School this past year, led his team to an AAAA, got to say it like that in Georgia, state title. I saw his second career start down in Miami. They played Miami Columbus, his school did. And just to see him then at the Elite 11 finals, he has grown so much. And I still think there's a ton more we can get out of Luke Kromenhoek. I think he's one of the best when it comes to throwing and operating on the move. He's got a good internal timer. He can attack different corners of the field. I think it's a great take for Florida State, who took his commitment before he had even started a game. One other nugget on Luke, it was impressive to see how he is filled out. We compare him to Ryan Tannehill, who is another guy that played wide receiver at various points in his career. Luke is up to 200 pounds. He looks great in the pocket. He's a big stature. I think he could take plenty of hits in the ACC or wherever Florida State is at some point down the line. He's going to get right back up.
Yeah, who knows? And also, similarly to Ryan Tannehill, played at Texas A&M, but they were not a member of the SEC when he was playing. So all the conference realignment, hard to keep up with. This next one from Nittany26. Do you think that there is playing time available for Ethan Grunkemeyer down the road at Penn State with Aller and Smolik in front of him?
I think if you're a Penn State fan, you got to be excited about how this quarterback room has set up. Obviously, Drew is the quarterback of the future, but Jackson Smolik was another Elite 11 finalist. We saw him last year in Los Angeles. He showed up to that event, committed to Tulane, eventually flipped to Penn State. I think Ethan Grunkemeyer, when I arrived at the Elite 11 finals, within the first 20 minutes, the thing that stood out about him was his velocity and his zip as a passer. With that being said, I still think he is a ball of clay that can be molded into a variety of different things. He is just scratching the surface of his potential. I thought he was one of the best all week when it came to attacking over the middle. Now, on Friday nights there in the state of Ohio, we'd like to see a little bit more wins. He actually has a losing record, but we believe in the player. We believe in what he has and what he can become. And an interesting nugget, he's actually training with Drew's same quarterback coach there in the Buckeye State. Those two guys are working with the same individual. So, are we going to see him soon? I don't know. I think if you're a Penn State fan, you hope for 2 years of Drew, and then Jackson and Ethan, they duke it out. And I think that's a perfect scenario where both those guys are pushing each other.
It's a good problem to have. Next one from Wicked Bronco. What's holding CJ Carr back from 5-star status?
I think my colleague Cooper Patagna put this the best way. The week Julian Sayin had at the Elite 11 finals is the week we kind of thought CJ Carr might have, and he is right there for us. And I think I'm one of his biggest fans. He's got a prototypical frame, pushing 6'3". Interesting nugget. When I was talking to him at check-in, he is super just sharp between the ears. Told me he's nationally ranked on the chess.com app. I haven't really fact-checked that, but I like the intangibles. He's obviously got a really good pedigree. I don't think he gets enough credit for how he moves around in the pocket, how he creates. Hasn't played on the best team at the prep level. So we just want to see how this senior season goes. I mean, he is right there for us. I think Notre Dame is getting a good one. I love how he throws the football. I love his mechanics. And I thought what was notable about his time at the Elite 11, night one, a bit quiet, rebounded a big way night two during that pro day. I think pressure was on and he produced. So he's right there. And I think having seen some of these other quarterbacks the Irish have signed in recent cycles, I would rank him number one for sure.